In Chicago, we formalized it. It's called Activate. We're taking 56 unused plazas around the city and gradually reinventing them in partnership with the private sector and with a nonprofit. And thinking of, we think of technology platforms, we're thinking of space as a platform for innovation and for entrepreneurship. So you can have Wi-Fi, you can have the State of the Union or State of the City playing on a TV screen, you can have a local tea shop operating, and it becomes a safer place too when it's activated for people. I keep mispronouncing this. Yes. This is a great example of something from what I've read that I think you guys had right in the 1960s. This was the place to be back then. Wild, music and people playing and laughing and eating and drinking. So the streets, even here, were not always for cars. Where I do think there is some room for improvement, though, is again in public space innovation. There's some great opportunities to take parking spaces, alley spaces, and in a very cheap way to reinvent them. You can create more safety, you can couple it with art and beautification, and really give people amazing spaces for almost no money. These can be small budget projects that would add a lot of value. This is Haji Street. I think this was just intuitively designed as a great public space. Probably, 100 years ago? So again, there are great examples in the past. We don't need to look necessarily all over the world or to the future. You have some great successes. And these reinventions of public spaces have big returns. Big returns, again, in safety, also in business, for retail businesses, and in land value. Now let's talk about big public space projects, something you guys have done, I think, extremely well. We've done projects in Chicago, like the Bloomingdale Trail, where we took old space that was used for rail, and we converted it to space for people. And we did it in record time for the US. In about 28 months, we went to construction, raised $91 million between the public and private sector, did 500 land easements with landowners, and now it's throwing off tax revenues, and it's being used by 5 neighborhoods. It's the longest elevated trail in the world. Or the Chicago Riverwalk, which we used federal money, but then we coaxed the private sector basically into paying the note by enhancing the public space that they used, which was formerly very low use. People didn't even know the Riverwalk existed. It wasn't contiguous, and there were dollar beers down there, to going to construction within 30 months and building a beautiful new Riverwalk where the businesses, some of them are between 300% to 400% of plan, whether they be retail, boating projects, or architecture tours, and so on and so forth. And again, they're throwing off tax revenues for the city. So the faster we can do some of these projects, the faster they can benefit people. And for us, it was really key to get the private sector's input before we undertook the project and find out what would make it work for them before we did the big RFP. And when we did that, guess what? We aligned our incentives, we had a true partnership, and they were willing to pay 300% to 400% more than they were before because it benefited them.